On episode 265 of He Said, She Said movie reviews, we take a look at the movie The Long Game. Welcome to He Said, She Said movie reviews. This is the podcast where a happily married couple with similar but different movie tastes take a quick, spoiler-free look at the movies, helping you make the right decision before your next movie. I'm your host, Tim.
And I'm April.
So we just got back from seeing the movie The Long Game. What do you give this one, April?
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, that's about the same for me.
It was really good.
This movie's a 4 out of 5. We'll tell you all about it right after these two trailers. Well, he's back. The first one is Beetlejuice. This is the follow-up to the comedy Beetlejuice from 1988, and it's about a ghost who's recruited to help haunt a house. It has a release date of September 6th of 2024, and it's starring, of course, Michael Keaton, Jenna Ortega, and Winona Ryder. The second movie is The Wild Robot, and this is after a shipwreck. An intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabitable island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bands with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. This is an animated movie, and it looks like it's an environmentalist type of movie.
Definitely.
This has a release date of September 20th, 2024, and is starring Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, and Catherine O'Hara. All right, so let's dig into
the storyline.
The storyline of
Here
The
we
Long
go.
Game.
All right. This movie was centered around, well, first of all, it was in 1955, centered around 5 young Mexican-American caddies. Out of the love for the game, they were determined to learn how to play, so they created their own golf course in the middle of the South Texas desert.
And we got to say, this is based off of a true story.
It is. And what's really cool about it is Humberto Garcia, who wrote the book, it was self-published. It then went to this movie. So what I want to talk about a little bit is the genre.
Yeah, the genre.
It's a drama history. The director is Julio Quintana. He's known for Blue Miracle, The Vessel, and To the Wonder. The writers were Paco, Farias, known for Christmas with You, and Julio, again, Quintana, known for Blue Miracle, The Vessel, and there we go.
Okay. This had a cast which included Dennis Quaid, Jay Hernandez, Jaina Ortiz, Gillian Vigman, Brett Cullen, Oscar Nuñez, Julian Works, Paulina Chávez, Jimmy Gonzales, and the great Cheech Marin.
Yes, we love him. Runtime is 112 minutes, rated PG for language, racial slurs, just some theme material, some violence, and brief, rude material. All right.
Well, so both, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, both April and I love a good sports movie. And this was a sports movie. Let's don't get it wrong. It had plenty of the typical Hollywood sports tropes in it. But this movie also really grapples heavily with racism and prejudices.
Yeah,
especially against Mexican Americans in the 50s, and it was hard to watch.
It's always, no matter what it is, where it is. But a lot of this happened, and I always say this, it's very important for us to see the truth because you never want history to repeat itself.
But Jay Hernandez, who plays the coach, who ends up being the coach of the boys, he was the superintendent for this school system. He's coming to this Texas town, Mexican-American who was a Marine and fought in World War II, and he wasn't even allowed to join this country club because he was Hispanic or Mexican.
Again, it's hard. And when it is set, in the 50s, it really feels like the 50s. So it's you're transported backwards.
And one of the other things I thought was interesting too is at one point the boys go over the border back into Mexico for a night of fun.
Yeah.
And you even saw racism from Mexicans to the Mexicans who were born in America. So I thought that was an interesting portrayal.
It was.
And this don't get me wrong, this movie was directed, written by Mexican Americans, and most of the crew were Mexican Americans on this movie. So I suspect a lot of the things we saw in this movie were based off of truth.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. It is extremely authentic. The acting and the characters were well acted. It's a mixed cast of known and unknown, which we always love those kind of movies.
Yeah, and I thought the direction was great. It was very well directed, and I thought he was able to bring warmth and triumph to a very hard subject.
Yeah. And the score, a 50s movie without 50s music. However, the score added to the triumph, the entire story. I do believe that.
I thought the cinematography, it was a beautifully shot movie. You know, it shows the Texas desert. One of the attractions of golf, too, the sport of golf, is that usually you have very beautiful golf courses and all of that. And I thought they did a really good job of bringing that all together, too. So.
Right. I want to go back just for 2 seconds. I think Dennis Quaid did an incredible job. And Jay Hernandez was, he was remarkable, as was Cheech.
Yeah.
I just want to say that real quick.
Special effects. Well, I mean, there wasn't a lot of special effects in this movie because it really was a movie about people.
Yep.
But I thought they did well with the golf scenes and what they showed of it. So
and I think that, and Tim, you've played golf quite a bit in your past.
Quite a bit, and they looked a lot better than I am.
Yeah. Yes. But I just felt like not just the authenticity of the story, but again, everything else from the clothes, the production, design. I felt like I was in the 50s. So.
Editing, not noticeable, but once again, that's a good thing. If the editing is distracting, that's a bad thing. So, yeah, that's a good thing. Pace? What did you think, April?
I mean, I think it moved along well. I wasn't bored. You weren't either.
No.
And I think they needed every minute of that story.
Yeah, it was a 2-hour movie, basically a 2-hour movie, and it certainly didn't seem that way. So
no.
Dialogue, I thought it was really interesting, and it was funny because they talk about the whole thing in the U.S. is the undocumented kids who are born here are called dreamers, and it was interesting that dreams and dreamers were a theme kind of in this movie too.
Absolutely, and it definitely something I really admired about not just the dialogue but the story is their community pulling together.
Right. Yes.
Us learning more of the dynamics about that.
Because this is a story about. This was the first real Hispanics to get into the game of golf.
Absolutely.
And they paved the way for and a couple of these boys who became men actually played in the PGA.
Yeah.
One of the things is, definitely stay for the closing credits from this movie and see what happened to each one of these 5 young men. You
need to do that because the story arc, extremely satisfying, but I have to tell you the end. I just, I cried. I admit it. It was great.
It was a great movie. So
and just again, I know those of you who listen to us and have for several years, anything about kids, commitment, vision, visualization, with a dream, and to see them achieve it, there's just nothing. There is nothing better than that. So.
Absolutely.
See this movie.
So this is The Long Game. Both April and I give this movie 4 stars. Well worth seeing. So
definitely. Please see this movie and take your kids.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't already done so, please tell a friend about the podcast. See you at the movies.
See you at the movies. Stay happy and healthy.